The Degreaser is certainly one of the more interesting primaries in Pyro's arsenal. Whilst many people will agree that the Backbone and Phlogistinator don't hold a candle towards the stock Flamethrower, the Degreaser is a different story. Some people will say that the Degreaser is an upgrade to the stock, stating the stats it has makes it a superior primary, whereas other people will disagree and say it's a mediocre and lackluster weapon with nothing special going on for it. Getting biases out of the way first, I personally prefer the Degreaser. However, I would absolutely use the stock Flamethrower any day of the week as well. But why are people so split on these two weapons? Let's delve deeper down the rabbit hole. On paper, the stock Flamethrower is pretty damn good. When pressing primary fire, the player will expel a stream of flames using up 12.5 ammo per second, taking 16 seconds to deplete your primary ammo altogether. Enemy players take damage from these flame particles once every 0.075 seconds. These particles are also able to go through enemies as well as their buildings, meaning no obstruction will stop these flames and making it ideal for damaging multiple enemies at the same time. That is, if you're not aiming at a wall. I mean, why would you? Oh, that's why. Anyway, the Flamethrower is not great for long range attacks as the range on it is very limited. However, that can be made up for doing quite heavy damage at close range, decimating most classes in a matter of seconds, and this is for all primaries other than Dragon's Fury due to that shooting fireballs rather than a string of flames. It should be worth noting, even though it should be obvious, the Flamethrower does not work underwater. Mind blowing, I know. This of course forces a pyro to switch to their secondary or melee weapon depending on what is equipped and gives all other classes more of an advantage. It is also unable to fire if you're in contact with a wall. I'm talking to you, Gibbous Pyro, meaning they can make a pretty nifty ambush in front of spawn. I don't condone it, but just a fair tip, you know. Pressing the secondary fire button will fire a compression shot, which is able to deflect enemy projectiles, push them away and extinguish a teammate. Each compression blast takes 20 ammo to fire off, which, depending on what primary you're using, can be used multiple times. Unlike the primary fire, however, for some reason a pyro can still use a compression blast when in contact with a wall, which is odd to say the least. Upon direct damage from the Flamethrower, the enemy is also set on fire, causing them to burn and take additional damage called afterburn, which lasts a certain amount of time, which is dependent on how long you're blasting an enemy with a primary fire. Pyros of course are immune to this because of their fireproof suits, meaning you can't use a hit and run tactic on one like you could on any other class. Afterburn can also, for some ungodly reason, reduce healing and shield resist from a medigun by 20%. I suppose this was added to make a pyro a more appealing pick. But anyway, with this ability, pyros can attack medics paired up with another class to lengthen the amount of time it takes for them to gain uber or allow your team to do a little more damage on a vaccinated duo. I've honestly never seen this play out properly in a match, but hey, it's a thing I suppose. Overall, the stock Flamethrower can easily handle plenty of situations a pyro is thrown into, such as uber denial, reflecting oncoming projectile spam, and much more. So then, how does the Degreaser stack up against it? Well, as I said before, there's plenty of people who say it's better than stock, and there's plenty who say it's worse. But let's run through the stats, shall we? The Degreaser deploys 60% faster than other primaries, meaning the pyro can whip it out and start dealing damage faster than if he was using any other Flamethrower. The Degreaser also holsters 30% faster than any other primary too, allowing for a pyro to switch to another weapon quicker, which is stacked on top of other weapons' deployments boost, making a weapon like the panic attack deploy ridiculously fast when comboed with the Degreaser rather than with another primary. However, this is where the positives end for the Degreaser over the stock. The Degreaser, like every other unlock, has its downsides, and the first is a minus 66% afterburn damage penalty, meaning a normal tick of afterburn on the stock, which does around 3 to 4 damage, will only do 1 damage per tick on the Degreaser. This makes the Degreaser hopelessly bad when trying the previously mentioned hit and run tactic, as even low health classes are going to be put out way before they get close to death. This also makes the pyro using it have to rely on other means to increase afterburn, such as a flare gun, as they do consistent afterburn damage every 7 seconds once an enemy is hit by a flare. The second and last downside of the Degreaser is that it has a plus 25% air blast cost. This brings it up from the 20 ammo that it costs for the stock Flamethrower up to 25. On paper, this doesn't seem so bad, however this makes compression blasting less effective. You see, 20 ammo goes 10 times into 200 max ammo for the stock, but with the Degreaser's 25 ammo per blast, it only goes into 208 times. This means 2 less air blasts for the Degreaser, and that could result in plenty of situations going in a different way. Projectile spam deflection will be harder to counter for one, as you wouldn't be able to deflect as many back at them as you would with stock. If you time your deflect, however, this shouldn't be too much of an issue, to be fair. This of course is one of the many situations where less air blast can cause trouble for the user, but timing is really the key to overcome this downside. And of course, like stock, it retains its afterburn, reducing heal and shield resist, as well as gaining health when extinguishing a teammate, but again, this ability is available a little less than it is with stock. So that's where we are. Stock on the one hand has higher afterburn damage and allows for 10 compression blasts, whereas the Degreaser can only do 8 blasts and less afterburn in return for faster deployment and faster holstering. And looking at these ups and downs for each primary, yeah, I can see why people say the Degreaser is a straight upgrade from the stock Flamethrower. Think about it, you get faster switching speeds for slightly less afterburn, which isn't that useful anyway, and 2 less air blasts. 2, that's it. Compare that to the huge comboing potential in return, makes it a clear choice. Let's talk about stock. While it does do the same damage as the Degreaser, it does make for a better WM1 weapon, which is a term people freak the hell out about. Stock Flamethrower is absolutely the best weapon out of the two to hold down your primary fire and kill your enemies. Even if it doesn't work out, 4 damage per afterburn tick can help finish them off, as over time that can stack up to being more damage overall than doing chip damage from a shotgun. As for the secondary fire, 20 ammo per use can be more manageable than 25, since smaller numbers are just easier to keep track of. 10 compression blasts are also an obvious upside, as it allows a pyro to deflect more, push enemies back more, and just have more chances overall. If you fail 5 times, you'll still have another 5 to use, but with a Degreaser you'd only have 3. This means more opportunities to mess up and try again, and less ammo used up per use allows for more chances to attack. And really, that's all the positives the stock has in my honest opinion. The Degreaser's 60% faster deployment speed comes in use a lot more than an extra 3 damage per tick of afterburn. If you aren't able to land hits with your melee or land shots with your secondary and they're close enough, switching back to your primary is a more viable tactic to use now since it's so much faster. It can also be useful when taking out pesky scouts that jump everywhere, and as a sneak tactic since it's pretty much instant switch. The 30% faster holstering speed is also a pretty major upside due to allowing the pyro to turn to a full out combo pyro. Every flare gun is easier to connect a critical flare with, the reserve shooter becomes 50% faster to deploy, connecting the Degreaser and its 20% faster deployment, and the panic attack becomes 80% faster to deploy as well. Yes, 80%, that is again pretty much instant. It is also my choice of secondary due to allowing for a superbly quick finishing blow. If we're speaking switch speed, the Extinguisher has its 35% slower holster speed reduced to a mere 5% when switching to the Degreaser, making it hardly noticeable in all honesty. The only weapon, or rather jetpack, it doesn't affect is the Thermal Thruster, which has a locked 0.8 second holster speed. So overall, the Degreaser is easily an upgrade from stock, maybe even a straight upgrade depending on your playstyle. For a combo pyro such as myself, the Degreaser is absolutely essential to equip, as the holster and deploy speed buffs are inexcusably needed in order to combo to a secondary or melee as quick as possible. It is certainly not a weapon to just hold down your primary fire with, and afterburn is definitely not something you should rely on when using it, but the stock certainly has the edge with slightly more compression blast and a more effective afterburn, if you can even classify afterburn as effective. But really these downsides aren't that much of a hindrance as say the Phlogistinator not being able to air blast. Really, the Degreaser is a safe choice, but so is stock in all honesty. To sum everything up, the Degreaser is definitely, as if not more effective than stock, but that definitely doesn't mean stock is useless compared to it. But what do you all think? I know there's people who will still use stock over the Degreaser, but the Degreaser certainly isn't a primary you want to overlook. My preference of course is the Degreaser, but I can see the appeal of stock and even use it myself from time to time. Let me know your thoughts down below and what you prefer to use. And as always, this has been your Vampire Enthusiast BonOakley signing out. See you guys in the next one.
Ooh, this is some good art. It's so good it's making me hungry for cock waffles. Gimme, gimme!
Hi there! Thanks ever so much for watching. Please consider watching them to see more of us, especially me.